Good evening and welcome to the Utopian Cafe for Thursday, October 28th, with our special guest, David Rubin, friend of the show from 401 Sports. David, how are you doing tonight?
Great, Joe. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great. You got the Mets shirt on. I got blue,
Yeah,
so
it
I'm,
was blue night. It was don't shave and wear blue night, I guess, right?
yeah, I know a lot about that kind of evening.
Yep.
So David's here tonight. We're going to talk. He's got some news regarding 401 Sports. We're going to talk a little Mets, and then we'll talk about the Braves, Utopian, and otherwise. So David's going to kick off with a little news about 401 Sports.
Well, I think before I even get into 401, I just want to make the announcement about Bob Guerin. The Padres made a great move today. They grabbed the manager who I was really hoping somehow would come to the Mets. He had 1 year to go with the Oakland A's. He's been there, I think, 11 years?
Yeah.
Fantastic manager. And he was signed by the Padres without compensation. So obviously he wanted to stay in California, but wanted to change of scenery, taking over a team that's a lot of money has been invested in. And obviously Oakland was not going to be able to keep most of their star players with four of them coming due for major arbitration, four who are about to leave as free agents. It's going to be a huge transition year. I guess he probably got tired. Look, he doesn't own the club like Billy Beane does. Beane owns a small piece. He's not tied to it the way an executive is. So he took his bag and asked to travel, and now he's in San Diego. Good for San Diego fans. Yeah.
It's definitely a great addition to San Diego. Obviously, this is a name that was linked possibly to the Mets, and we're going to talk about some other names that might be in the running now here in a couple minutes. But good hire for San Diego.
Excellent. And before I forget, hat tip to Miss Ann Seaver, the late Tom's daughter. It's her birthday tonight, so I want to wish her a happy birthday. So I'm wearing a Tom Seaver shirt in his memory and her honor. 401's got some exciting things happening, and it's ironic how these things work. So we know who's winning who's in the World Series. I was hoping it would be 2-0 by now, but it's 1-1. But Atlanta is looking great in the actual series. We know who won the Utopian World Series, right? And on Monday, we are IPOing Mr. Austin Riley. We've already put out Max Fried. He sold out in seconds. We've put out Ian Anderson. He sold out in seconds. We've issued an IPO of Ozzie Albies, and he sold out in he took about maybe 2 minutes, I think. The recognition value wasn't quite there yet, but he sold out very quickly. And I expect Austin Riley to sell out pretty quick on Monday. So all you Brave fans and the Utopian universe, I know there's a lot of you, and even though I'm a Met fan, much respect to getting back into the series. And from your GM Alex Anthropoulos did an amazing job grabbing outfielders left and right. It seemed like he grabbed everyone in the market. Did a great job. You guys held in tight. Love Max Fried. He's a great kid. He's from out here in SoCal. I know people who know him, friends with his family. Really great kid. So we're excited to put Austin Riley into the IPO market on Monday. We've got a connection for you, Joey, on Tuesday. A Green Bay Packer is going to be released on Tuesday. He's a wide receiver. He's out with COVID right now, but I think he just about might be the best wide receiver in football. If not, one of the two best, Mr. Davante Adams.
That's big news.
Good morning, yeah. So releasing it here first. So Austin Riley Monday, Davante Adams Tuesday. We won't have. I don't think we'll have any baseball for a couple weeks. We might release one or two IPOs after the World Series. We have a number of Astros who are sold out, a number of Braves who are already sold out. Today, Mike Trout, a limited edition of just 1,000 shares, sold out in moments. So that was pretty awesome. And tomorrow is Tom Brady. And the incredible thing about Tom Brady, he already has a book value of about $165. And he's only going out for $150. There's only going to be 500 shares. So we talk about as limited can be. Tomorrow morning is Tom Brady. Really excited. I'm expecting to have my site up at 8:59. see the Brady stock come live at 9 o'clock, and with that about 9:05, see the Brady stock get sold out. So it's pretty exciting. Thanks to Geeker out there. I know he's a big fan. Really appreciate your feedback and love that you're so excited about it and enjoying it. And I hope a lot of other guys out there and gals out there in the Utopian universe are enjoying it. I think it's real exciting. Personally, I understand why NFTs are out there. I don't love the idea of an NFT. I'd rather either get an autograph if I'm going to spend the money and get a piece of memorabilia, or I'm going to invest in a career like this on the virtual IPO, where I have an investment in the length of that person's career. So you love an athlete, you get an opportunity to invest virtually in that athlete, and you can follow along. Like Mike Trout, 30 years of age, right? Talk about, the gold standard of baseball players. He's the Amazon of the stock world. He sold out today. If I would have been allowed to buy Mike Trout in 2011, I would have bought him at 10 cents or a quarter or a dollar, or whatever he would have been issued at. And right now, I would have 400 times my initial investment, and his career is far from being over. He's got hopefully another 9-10 years left. Got a bunch of other exciting players. If you're a Hoops fan next week, excuse me, we got Zach Levine from the Chicago Bulls, a high flyer, great offensive player coming into zone with a much improved Chicago Bulls team. We've got Kyle Kuzma. He'll be released on Thursday, along with Kevin Porter Jr., a young up-and-comer. And then Friday, probably my most exciting NBA IPO so far, guy by the name of Ja Morant. I think in the next year or two, he might become even better than Luka. I think he might end up being the best all-around player in the game. Credible point guard, great two-way player, unbelievable scorer, beautiful passer. Love his game, love watching him play. He reminds me of an old-timer, and he's super explosive and super excited that we're IPOing him next Friday. So thanks to everyone in the Utopian baseball universe who have been, getting involved. And if you haven't yet, please remember that there's a link that will get you bonus dollars. So 25% of what you deposit, you'll get back in IPO funds. So when you want to buy a Devontae Adams or an Austin Riley or whomever we might be IPOing the week after or the week after that or whenever it might be, make sure you go to the link that Joey provides. It's pinned at the top of the page. We'll put another link under this as well. The reason why I stress it is because I love that you'll go there, but I want you to benefit. You're part of something that I've been part of since almost a year now. I love watching the games every time I can. I certainly track them as often. I get frustrated yet again. It's not bad enough, Joey, to have to get frustrated in real life with the Mets need to have to get frustrated twice. But it's so great. The one thing that it does for me, I'm surrounded by memorabilia in my office. I love baseball. I love every team. I love every player. I enjoy the game immensely. And the only thing better than a baseball game for me is a Mets baseball game, right? So I love that somewhere Ted Williams is still playing, that Tom Seaver is still pitching, that cool Papa Bell is still swiping bases, that the greats of the game that I grew up reading about from the age of 4 and 5 are still out there playing in the Utopian baseball universe. So it makes me excited every day to see what the scores are going to be, and I'm excited for next season just as much as I am for the baseball season. I think it's going to be bigger and better, like always. And with that, thanks for letting me talk about my love, 401 Sports. Now let's talk about our shared love.
The Mets.
The Mets, yeah. Interesting week, huh? If you're a Mets fan.
Yeah.
There's someone told me a long time ago that there's a Chinese proverb that goes something like, "May you live in interesting times." That's not something you want to wish upon somebody. The word interesting is not meant to be good, right?
Yeah.
I think for Mets fans right now, we're living in interesting times. I think we have to stop for a second, though. And we have to realize that, nobody knows all of the names that have been spoken to, what the conversations have been, what the behind the scenes things are. All these rumors come out, and everyone loves knocking the team because Steve Cohen is a billionaire. The Mets have been the LOL Mets for so long. Everyone jumps on the bandwagon to knock the Mets. Okay. Two things that are really important to think about before you get into the conversation about this. Number one is Steve Cohen didn't become a billionaire by accident. He is the best at what he does. He's been the best at what he does for a long time. Yeah, you can look at some of his practices that people didn't like. I understand. It's never been pinned on him, but obviously if he's the head of the ship, yes, it's his responsibility. The same way it was Sandy's responsibility with Callaway and with Garrett Porter and everyone else. You're still, whether you're directly responsible or not, you're overseeing the whole ship, right? That being said, Steve Cohen has worked harder, worked smarter, been in the right spot everywhere in the financial world. We know it's not the same as the baseball world. It's completely different things. But anyone who doesn't think that he's done his homework, that he's speaking with the right people, I forgot the politician they said he was talking to a couple of days ago. It's not important. Anybody who's had any success he could talk to in any sport or any way of life, any walk of life, anyone that he values their opinion, why not talk to them? But at the end of the day, Sandy's doing the initial vetting. They have a brain trust in their front office that exists now. Their head of sabermetrics came from the Dodgers. They have Tommy Tanuas, who's head of scouting, Sandy's son. They have a bunch of people internally who know people in the game, who know who's out there, who the up-and-comers are, and who the existing great minds are. So to think that the Mets don't have a plan, to think that any reporter knows truly what that plan is from leaks and bits and pieces, come on. We all know better than that. At the end of the day, we'll wind up with a great manager. We'll wind up with some great baseball people. It might not be the name that we all wanted at the start. At the end of the day, nobody remembers the president, right? Nobody remembers the GM. They remember what you did on the field. Can most people, they know Gil Hodges. Do most people know who his GM was? No, unless you're a crazy Mets fan.
Yeah.
Unless you really follow the history, right? Right. So even the '86 Mets, outside of New York, most people aren't going to know that it was Frank Cashin because he's not a top of the mind name unless you're a crazy baseball fan or from Baltimore or New York where he was your GM.
Sure.
So it doesn't matter right now what names we're not getting, and what matters is getting the right people in there and making something happen. Yeah.
Is there outside of the names that have come public and said I'm not interested or I'm withdrawing, is there a name or two out there that you still think would be at the forefront for Mets fans?
Yeah, Josh Burns, I don't know if he's been interviewed or not. Anyone who says they know definitively, they're wrong, right? Unless they're friends with Josh Burns or unless they're talking directly to Sandy and Steve Cohen. But I think Josh Burns, a great baseball guy. He's been around the game a long time. One name that's intrigued me since the start of this is Brian Sabean. People reach out to him, would you be interested? He's an ex-New York guy. He was with the Yankees. Okay, he's in his late 60s. Big deal. He's a brilliant guy. He built an incredible team and organization with the Giants. He's still one of those guys who people would want to work with. There's a guy who's in semi-retirement who probably wants to come back by the name of Bruce Bochy, who he's really good friends with. Boch was one of the best managers of the last 30 years with two great organizations, the Padres, we talked about, and the Giants. He's in contact with enough people in the game that I'm sure if he were to be brought in, I'm sure he could have his pick of some hot young executives who'd love to come and learn from a Brian Sabean. Brilliant guy, did a great job in that Giants org. Love to see him come on. There are other couple names that I've heard. We were talking about David Stern. Everyone was talking about Matt Arnold. They both got extensions, so they're not coming from Milwaukee. And I understand why your owner, Mark, is reluctant to let any big market team poach the executives that he's developed. I get it. I understand it. And I think there's definitely a bias against the guy who's the richest man in baseball. That being said, Sandy's not running the org. He doesn't want to. He wants to move over. Sandy is beloved in the game by a lot of people. He's respected by all the others. They don't have to love him to take an opportunity to run a team in the biggest market, right? It's a great way to make your bones. The other side of that coin is not everybody wants to be in New York, nor should they. It's not for everybody. It's a tough job. You're going to be under the microscope. There can be all these journalists who are speculating, who don't know, anything truly about it. Those are the same people going to be judging the performance from day one of this person coming in. So it's not an easy job to take. The other thing I was going to say was, I think Sandy's getting painted into a bad corner by a lot of people. People thinking that, working with Sandy, he's going to stick his finger in it to be hard. You got a guy who's had a lot of integrity for a lot of years in the game. Some people didn't like him because when he was in the commissioner's office, he worked with the Dominicans side in development, and a lot of penalties were given out for clubs that weren't doing things correctly there, and he cleaned up a lot of the Dominican Republic market for baseball. He also worked in the commissioner's office and had a way of, I think, rubbing some people the wrong way, possibly. At the end of the day, like Billy Beane said, he would have been honored if he was going to go anywhere. It would be to work with somebody like Sandy, who's his mentor. Beane didn't want to leave at all. He was never going to leave. David Stearns, he loves New York and opportunity, loves what he's doing in Milwaukee, just like Matt Arnold does. A couple guys in Tampa would probably be great candidates, but some of them truly believe in what they're doing. They have these groups of people that have worked together for a while, that they believe in what they're doing together as a team and don't want to leave,
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Gomes from the Dodgers, I thought would have been a great GM to bring in under a guy like a Brian Sabian, but apparently he wants to stay in LA, and he's going to get officially promoted to general manager. So a lot of the names that we're hearing, or that we were hearing, are no longer available. That being said, you have to think a guy like Billy Owens, who was interviewed last year from the A's, who's a great baseball guy. Maybe they bring in someone like that. I would personally, Joey, I liked one thing. I liked a number of things that Brody did, but one thing that I really liked was he brought in some really good advisors. He brought back Omar, of course, but he brought in a guy like Allard Baird. Baird did an amazing job at Kansas City, did an amazing job at Boston. I think I would love to see Sandy go the route of bringing in a Sabian, who could definitely give you a lot of respect in the front office. He's a no-nonsense guy. He's going to set the baseball operations department straight. Doesn't have to be the biggest sabermetric guy, because the great thing that I hear about him is that he's a very collaborative person. It's not my way or the highway. People love working with him and for him, and he builds a good team. He's the one who promoted Bobby Evans through the ranks, another guy that they were talking about coming to the Mets. We know that wasn't going to happen. He loves working in San Fran. That's where his family is. That's where he's put down roots. It's hard to uproot yourself. And the other thing that I'd love is if you bring in a guy like Sabian, you bring in a young guy like maybe Carlos Rodriguez from Tampa, great front office guy, give him an opportunity to be your GM, bring in a couple of seasoned vets. There are a lot of guys out there like Omar Minaya types who can come on board and be advisors and work with the development people and work with the scouts and work with operations and build a solid team where it's not just one or two people dictating policy. Look what those Dodgers did, right? You had Andy at the top, came from Tampa, and what did he do in Tampa? He built this great brain trust. He had Alex Anthopoulos, the Braves GM, working with him. He had Farhan Zahidi, the GM of the Giants, working with him. He had Josh Burns, who came over from Chicago and San Diego, and he'd been a GM for San Diego and for the Diamondbacks. Yeah, I know he's the guy who traded back Scherzer. I get that from all my friends. I get ripped about it, but he's a great baseball guy. You have the opportunity to bring in some really good names, but more important than the name is the experience and what they can do in the front office. So I'm excited. I'm excited, and I'm not being discouraged. I'm not a Pollyanna by any means, but I'm not discouraged by who hasn't come, because I look forward to who will be there.
Let me ask you this. You use the phrase an Omar Minaya type. Why not Omar Minaya for this job?
Good question. Omar's had a couple go rounds with the team. A lot of the guys who are still there, Pete Alonso, Jacob deGrom, they were his guys, and realistically, even in 2020, no, I'm sorry, Alonso wasn't his guy, but he was responsible for helping draft him while he was back with the Mets. But when Sandy took over, that 2015 team, a lot of it was Omar's.
Yeah.
Right. Murphy, Syndergaard, Darno, Jake, all the guys that were in that young pitching staff, Wheeler, those were all Omar guys. I think the world of Omar as a human being, I think he did as good a job as anybody could do when Jeff Wilpon is looking over your shoulder. That being said, I think it's time to move on, Joey. I like revisiting things sometime, right? Every once in a while, a sitcom comes back around and it's on for a second time, and you're like, oh, that's really cool. I didn't get tired of it the first time. I'm glad they brought the show back. And then sometimes you have a show that they bring back again, and you're like, why the heck are they doing this, right? iCarly was a show my kids loved. Right, it was a fun show. They brought it back again without one of the leads, and apparently it's kind of fizzled out, and it hasn't got caught fire. Right, I like to think that Omar Minaya coming back might be more of that than maybe Fuller House, which did pretty well for 3 seasons on Netflix. So, yeah.
Speaking of TV shows, did you catch episode 1 of season 11 of Curb?
Oh. Lara, I got my kids live around the corner from JB Smoove, so I love him. Awesome dude, awesome comedian, and every time I see Curb, I watch it a certain way. My dad used to watch it this way when he watched Seinfeld, and I watch it like this because I can't believe what Larry's gonna do next. Yeah. The funeral for the non-funeral for Albert Brooks was brilliant.
Yeah.
I hear Kaylee Cuoco is going to be on an episode playing Funkhauser's love interest, son of Funkhauser, right? So that'll be pretty cool. Yeah, that'll be pretty cool. Yeah. Love Larry. What did you think? Did you enjoy his return?
I did. I didn't see season 10 until about 8 months after it premiered, so I'm still kind of fresh on those episodes, and I didn't get a chance to rewatch those. I think what I'm going to do is before Sunday, when the next episode airs, I'm going to try to get caught up on 10 again, just because I've seen every episode from seasons 1 through 9 probably 6 times.
Right.
So I want to rewatch 10. I remember the big storyline from 10 was the Spite store.
Yes.
Spite House or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, looking forward to that.
Awesome.
Last thing I want to talk to you about is this particular World Series, Braves and Astros. The ratings are actually up from last year, 17%.
Shockingly, yeah.
I actually assumed they would be lower because this is actually the first, and this isn't a knock on the South, but this is the first time in the history of the World Series, I believe, that it's 2, quote, Southern teams, just because of the way that the divisions are lined up. You got, the Houston Astros play in the West, the Atlanta Braves play in the East.
Right.
But TV ratings for baseball are usually historically low in the South.
Right.
I'm talking about national ratings, not regional. So I just assumed it was going to be low, but they actually are up a little bit. And the series returns to Atlanta tomorrow. What are you expecting in the next three games in the Astros Braves series?
A lot of pitchers that you have thought were going to really deal in the entire run of playoffs so far haven't, and a lot of surprising arms have. I expected Fried to have a great game. It's a national stage. I know these things do happen. Nobody expected Charlie Morton. Ugh, it's a terrible story. See him pitch on a broken leg, and then now he's lost till April. I hate that. I'm a
Yeah.
Mets fan, but I first of all, I respect every ball player. Second of all, I hate when anyone gets injured. Right. So I was expecting, honestly, Joey, I was expecting that this series, Atlanta's pitching was going to take it. I figured Morton, Fried, Anderson were going to just take that mound, take control. Astros are playing with a diminished Greinke, with a diminished staff in general. Garcia had a little bit of a bad run there. They lost their best arm, McCullers. They lost Verlander to start the year. Tough way to get into much respect to Dusty. And I think I never want to rule out Dusty pulling a trick out of his bag of tricks because he's such a bright guy. I don't think he's the best in-game strategist. I think he's one of the best at keeping your team loose and a traditional players manager.
Yeah.
But I think he's got this great hitting team. And they're going to an Atlanta ballpark that definitely fosters more of a hitting atmosphere, even though their pitchers have done really well there this year, right? My expectation is it's going to be some very high-scoring games. I expect Atlanta to take 2 of the 3 and go back to Houston with at least a 1-game advantage. I'm hoping it goes 7. Even when the Mets aren't in the series, I love it when it goes 7. I call it bonus baseball. It elongates my season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to get to the winter meetings. I want to get to – but the winter meetings are going to be the 8th of December no matter what. The collective bargaining is going to expire December 1st no matter what. We don't even know if there's going to be a strike or a holdout next year, right? So if we get an extra game of baseball, God bless us. Love it to go 7. I'm expecting it to go 7 too. I think it's going to be a battle of attrition. Whoever is left standing. If you told me at the start of the playoffs it would be the Astros against the Braves, I would have figured initially it would have been slugging Astros and pitching heavy Braves. And we now see those Braves are pretty adept at hitting just like the Astros did in clutch moments and piling on runs. So what do you think, my friend?
Well, I just like you, I like, I become, obviously I'm a Mets fan, but once you get to a series and I'm kind of neutral, I just want good baseball. I want it to go 7. I am rooting for the Braves. Stan and I actually kind of argued about this. He's like, oh, you can't root for a rival. And I said, well, I was a baseball fan before I even knew what the Mets were. So at this point, especially at this point in my life, personally, I just root for people and I root for my friends. I don't really know too many people that are Astros fans that I'm close with on a day-to-day basis.
Or that who would admit it these days.
Yeah, but I can name 24 friends that are Braves fans, so I want to see them happy and. Just hoping for good baseball and some memorable moments. I do remember when it was Dodgers Astros in 2017. Mm-hmm. I went on record and I said those were the best game 2 and 5 I've ever seen, and I still stand by that statement.
Amazing games.
Yeah,
absolutely. I still think the best series that I've ever seen anywhere in playoff baseball was the '86 Astros Mets.
Yeah,
I think that had everything, and I'm not saying it because I'm a Mets fan. I just think it was unbelievable baseball. I think that Astros team was incredible. Mike Scott still, gives me nightmares 35 years later. I agree. I think you got 2 really good teams that you can root for. And the funny thing, Joe, is, the Astros play in the Angels division and the Braves play in the Mets division.
Isn't that funny?
So, right. So I have to go back to why am I rooting for the Braves? National League team. I'm a National League guy first. Yeah. I love Dusty. Put aside what the Astros did. I know it's hard, and I know some people can't get past that. Put aside what the Astros did. And Dusty Baker, you have a baseball lifer who's been a great dude, great human being, great manager, beloved in the game. I think I told you he had an hour-long conversation with my dad a number of years ago in Arizona, talking about the old Giants. My dad was talking to him about Mel Ott and Carl Hubble and Willie Mays and Monty Irvin, and couldn't have been nicer to my dad. And even made Barry Bonds come over for a second and say hi to my dad, which Barry didn't like, but he showed Barry his jacket, my dad's jacket, which was a 51 Giants win the pennant, which I still have. So he laughed at it, and funny because Dusty even said, "Guys, watched your dad play as a rookie. He's a Mets fan, but he used to go see the Giants in Shea Stadium and loved your dad, even though he was a Mets fan." And that didn't turn Barry's head even until he said he also saw Willie Mays' first game at the Polo Grounds, and then all of a sudden he stopped in his tracks. So, and it was a little bit nicer than my dad. But Dusty could not have been better. And I met Dusty a couple of times at Scouts dinners. Great man, looks you right in the eye, big handshake, pat you on the back, laughs. Just a great, to me, Dusty Baker is one of the, best ambassadors for the game of baseball, So if he wins, hard to be upset.
Yeah. Well, David, I promised that I'd get you to dinner by about 6. And it's 6 o'clock right now, but we're going to have you back next week.
Yep. Look forward to it. Hopefully a rest and a return to action for Mr. Stan.
Yeah. So Stan, I was just going to mention, Stan and I will not be on the air together tomorrow. Stan's still feeling under the weather, so I'm going to move the Utopian Cafe to 5 Central tomorrow. I'm still going to give everyone everything I promised. We're going to reveal the entire opening day schedule for season 3 of the Utopian tomorrow.
Nice.
All the national coverage. We have a quadruple header on ESPN. We got a double header on the network. All the matchups. So that's going to happen. And we're going to reveal the first 4 guests for Having a Catch, which is debuting in December. And this gentleman right here will be a guest at some point as well.
Love it.
So it's going to be a big show tomorrow, our last cafe until November 15th. So next week, and I'll announce that probably later tonight or tomorrow, David and I will be back next week with our normal 401 sports show. And I'm sure we'll have some Mets news to talk about at that time as well.
Hopefully some really good stuff. I hope. Yeah.
All right, David. Well, as always, I enjoy sharing the screen with you. Anything else you want to add?
No, just here's to some great baseball. Can't wait to hear the schedule for opening day tomorrow. That's pretty awesome. And remember, Braves fans, Austin Riley, Monday.
And what time is that Monday?
9 a.m. Pacific.
9 a.m.
So
Pacific.
Every day, 9 a.m. Pacific, the new IPOs go live.
Sounds good. Well, I'll throw the link up right after the show. Again, David, thanks for being here as always, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Go Mets.
Go Mets. All right. Have a good night, everyone.
You too, bud.